day, everyone. I am Mark Vello, and you're listening to Headline News. Fox News reveals McConnell and Pelosi's business ties with the CCP. Recently, Fox News exposed, for the first time, the business ties that top U.S. officials have with the Chinese Communist Party. The officials discussed include Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, his wife Elaine Chao, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Fox News interviewed U.S. author and political consultant Peter Schweizer. The host, Maria Bartiromo, said, "It's also very clear that the Chinese Communist Party has a real strategy. They are identifying people in very influential high positions." She asked Schweizer who else is compromised by the CCP. She continued, "We know about Hunter Biden. We know about Eric Swalwell. What about Nancy Pelosi, and what about Dianne Feinstein? Who else can you mention in your investigative work that may be compromised by the CCP right now?" Schweizer responded, "There are a lot of powerful people in D.C. who want the Hunter Biden story to go away because it has potential direct implications on themselves. All you have to do is look at the very top of the legislative body in the United States. Elaine Chao's family runs a shipping business. Unlike the Biden family, her family business is legal. However, the key problem is that the shipping business was funded by loans from the CCP. The ships were built by the CCP. The staff members were recruited by the CCP. And the vast majority of contracts were for the delivery of products made by the Chinese Communist state-owned enterprises along the Pacific coast. If McConnell and Chao made any move that would dissatisfy the CCP, then the CCP could destroy the family's business. Paul Pelosi is Nancy Pelosi's husband. He has a series of businesses with the CCP in mainland China. The CCP transferred money to the top levels of the United States through these business ties in exchange for influence in political affairs. Dianne Feinstein is married to Richard Blum. Blum has been doing business in mainland China for 25 years. He held private meetings with senior CCP officials and received money from them. The CCP used the same tactics in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. It is now attempting to use this tactic in the United States, effectively taking over power from top political leaders. The CCP conducts business by making sweetheart deals with family members of the political class. They do this to influence the U.S. government to be less critical of the CCP. The question now is whether we will act on this or let it happen. Host Bartiromo replied saying, "We will not allow the Chinese Communist Party to take over America." It's ironic that Elaine Chao's family was persecuted by the CCP in her grandfather's generation. The CCP regarded her grandfather as a class dissident. Her father and uncle left the mainland for Taiwan in 1949. He was brutally persecuted at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution and was later beaten to death. After the death of her grandfather, the rebels drove Chao's grandmother out of the house. The lonely elderly lady had to live in an abandoned hut next to a pigsty. But by the time Chao reached a high position in American politics, she shamefully chose to collude with the CCP for money. White House meeting attendees get the inside scoop. U.S. President Donald Trump tweeted on December 20th denouncing left-wing media claims of a White House meeting in preparation for a military coup as fake news with distorted reporting. Left-wing media outlets, such as CNN, published separate articles claiming that Friday's White House meeting was full of chaos and anxiety for the Trump team, and that there was a proposal to impose martial law to prevent Biden from taking power and triggering a military coup. This caused a fight to break out among the participants. In addition, the New York Times also said the Trump camp erupted in a heated debate over the appointment of Sidney Powell as special counsel to investigate the voter fraud. Thus, President Trump tweeted, "Martial law equals fake news, just more knowingly bad reporting." Later, Powell, a prominent lawyer in the Trump camp, also released comments saying that it was all fake news. There is, no discussion of a military coup by Donald Trump or anyone on his behalf. President Trump is a law-abiding patriot. People saying that, including those around him, are liars. The coup is by the CCP and all the people it has bought. Patrick Byrne, the former Overstock.com CEO, and one of the investigators of U.S. election violations, also attended the White House meeting on December 18th and later revealed more inside information. Byrne said he spent 4.5 hours at the White House. Media reports also cited anonymous sources claiming that during the meeting, the president discussed the possibility of appointing Powell as a special prosecutor to investigate election fraud. At press time, Powell had not responded to a request for comment. Byrne said the president wants to fight on. However, those opposing Trump's plans are concerned with how such moves may be perceived in the media, according to Byrne. He specifically pointed to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, General Counsel Pat Cipollone, and 2 attorneys who were referred to by their first names, Eric and Derek. Byrne tweeted on December 20th that "I hear White House General Counsel Pat Cipollone was fired tonight. From my hours with the guy Friday night, that would be the smartest thing Trump could have done. He is a scheming worm, worrying about his next job and what socialite parties he might get invited to." Byrne pointed out that the frame of mind of Meadows and some others automatically responded with the following, "We better not try that, it may not work, it would hurt your reputation in the press," rhetoric. He revealed that these people do their best to come up with reasons to tell the president that he can't do anything. As a CEO, my heart broke to see what he is going through. He is betrayed from within. Byrne, referring to Trump's election case, wrote that it is 100% winnable, no martial law required. Attorney Lynn Wood also tweeted late Sunday night, blasting White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows as a traitor who needs to be investigated more deeply, saying he has heard some serious allegations and has witnesses. Lynn Wood called on Meadows to support the president, otherwise he will be deemed a traitor of we the people. Pelosi kept silent amid the calling for Swalwell's resignation. Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell's affair with a female Chinese spy has been a hot topic. Director of National Intelligence, Ratcliffe, gave a briefing on this case, which was shared with House Minority Leader McCarthy and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on December 18th. Kevin McCarthy said Swalwell should no longer remain on the House Intelligence Committee. He said that no one who was in the room could walk out and say that Eric Swalwell should be on the Intel Committee. He continued saying that the one answer that I got out of that briefing was that there is no way Eric Swalwell should continue to serve on the Intel Committee. McCarthy said that he had asked the FBI twice to brief Swalwell since Axios had reported on his affair last week, but was unable to. McCarthy noted that many of the accusations Swalwell had made against others actually happened to him. Chinese spy Fang Fang knew him when he was a city councilman, and she helped him run for Congress. Swalwell also ran for president last year. Pelosi did not comment after the briefing. When asked about it last week, she said she wasn't worried about Swalwell. A current affairs commentator, Chin Peng, tweeted, "The degeneration of the Democratic Party is truly mind-boggling." On Friday, the FBI and Director of National Intelligence briefed Pelosi and others about representatives. Swalwell did hook up with Chinese Communist spy Fang Fang. Ratcliffe said he was no longer fit to be on the Intelligence Committee. And today, Republican House Leader McCarthy raised the issue again. But House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi has turned a deaf ear to it. It seems that national security, in their eyes, is not as important as the Democrats. Are Hong Kong arrests a test? The Chinese Communist Party is pleased with Biden's ambiguous response. Some U.S. media believe that Beijing's new crackdown on Hong Kong's pro-democracy activists is intended to test the attitude of Biden and his team towards such a crackdown. The Wall Street Journal recently published an article saying that the recent arrest of Next Media Hong Kong founder Lai Chi-ying and other Hong Kong pro-democracy figures was a test by the CCP's top brass for both Biden and his Democratic Party team to see if they would react differently from the Trump administration. The article argues that for now, Xi should be pleased with Biden's vague reaction. The article mentions that Lai Chi-ying angered Beijing with his trip to Washington in 2019. At the time, he met with U.S. political figures, including Vice President Mike Pence and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He is currently facing multiple charges, and Chinese Communist Party mouthpiece Ta Kung-pao says he should be extradited to the mainland for trial, though his friends fear this would be a death sentence for Lai Chi-ying, the 72-year-old man. Footage of Lai Chi-ying in shackles after he was arrested and denied bail has been released. The report suggests that Xi hopes to silence the Hong Kong people through intimidation and to test the response of Biden and his team to it. Perry Link, sinologist and distinguished professor at the University of California, Riverside, said, "By publicly picking on Lai Chi-ying, it may be that Beijing wants to see how that process is going. So far, Xi must be pleased with Biden's lack of response." Trump's administration has confirmed that China has become America's primary adversary. It steals U.S. technology, monitors and intimidates critics on American university campuses, engages in massive spying, claims new territory in the South China Sea, and threatens U.S. allies in Taiwan and Australia. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been very critical of the CCP, from condemning China's incarceration of the Uyghurs to sanctioning officials responsible for the crackdown in Hong Kong. But Biden, the self-elected, has not said anything about the Chinese Communist Party's actions, and his team's response was vague. Jake Sullivan, Biden's choice to be National Security Advisor, only tweeted last week that, "I am deeply concerned about the continuing arrests and imprisonment of pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, but did not mention anyone in particular." The article also points out that John Kerry was nominated by Biden to be the special envoy for climate change, because Kerry is in the business of placating America's adversaries. So their goal is to get the Chinese Communist Party to commit to their climate agreement. The CCP, in turn, would trade this for U.S. silence on the party's suppression of Hong Kong and Taiwan. If Biden is elected and the Democratic Party is in power, the CCP will continue its tyrannical behavior, stealing secrets and suppressing dissidents in Hong Kong and other areas, at little cost to Xi Jinping. This concludes today's broadcast. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for the next headline news.